The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hey! A triple feature, 3 films up on the screen. One's a little heavy, one's a little sleek, and one's just caught between.
We'll laugh and cry and overanalyze, dig through fleams with wide, wild eyes.
Grab some popcorn, take your seat.
3 times the fun, 3 times the treat.
Hey, a triple feature.
That's what we're here to do.
What we're here to do.
Buckle up, the lights go down, and we'll watch
Them all with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast triple feature. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly unmortified Mr. Mark Radulich. And that pretty princess over there, he wants his birds. It's Robert Winfrey.
Mark, you can't make that reference when I'm the only one who gets it.
I certainly can. I thought about this before I did that. I said, he can't now blink at me in terror that he doesn't know what the hell it is I'm talking about. I just told him what I'm talking about. And so it'll be funny to me that you know what I'm talking about, but nobody else does.
If you wanted to get that response, you should have introduced yourself as Negro icon Cody Rhodes.
They called me Tyrone, or was it Raheem?
Raheem.
Yeah. No, there's only one Raheem in my life, and his first name is Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, the John Singleton
that graphic you have playing over the intro song,
yeah.
it's not centered proper. The words are not centered properly, and now it bothers me. I just realized it this time looking at it. Like they're canted more to the left.
A little bit, yeah, now that I see it too. Anyway, the John Singleton to my Spike Lee, Robert Winfrey. Yay!
Don't know if I should be more offended by that one than the previous one, but
Well, those are your choices, bub. You can either be John Singleton or Sophia the First.
well, look, if you're Spike Lee, then I have to throttle you, though.
I mean, whatever gets you off, big boy. Listen to me. We're here. This is not Damn You Hollywood. I got my one in for the night. This is not Damn You Hollywood. This is Triple Feature, as the song goes. And this is yet another show, like 3 years, maybe 2 years in the making.
Something like that.
I feel like we talked about doing this maybe at the end of 2023, 2020. I was still living in the old house, but I'd thrown the wife out of the bedroom by that point, if I recall, when we talked about doing this, because I think I had just started doing the director focuses, and you and I had talked about doing this, and there was like, I want to do it a little bit differently than you do your typical director focus. I kind of want to look at the entirety of Roland Emmerich's career, film by film, but through the prism of 3 films in particular. And those films tonight are The Day After Tomorrow, The Patriot in 2012. I have a bit of an intro here to kind of get, so we don't have to do this later. But really quick, what made you're not my usual brand of vodka for triple feature. Why are you here? Why did you want to do it? Why did you want to do this show this way?
Well, when you started doing director focuses, that kind of tickled my fancy, because looking at a single director's journey, artistic journey, as they change, what they learn, how they apply it later on in their career, the arc of what they do, both commercially, critically, and otherwise, I find that very interesting. As a historical exercise, as a thought exercise, I have a bit of a passion for art history, so that kind of is where this is like a perfect blending of those. And you've done a few other directors, and my thoughts on this one were, okay, I have a soft spot for disaster flicks as a genre. I'm not entirely sure why, but I do. Most of them are dumb. Some of them are very, very not good. In fact, we're going to do a triple feature of disaster flicks a little bit later on. If it's still on the schedule or not, I forget. But
So far, so good.
so far, and like none of those are objectively good movies necessarily, but I enjoy them. And Roland Emmerich is kind of the modern king of the disaster flick. Like, this is what he does. He is one of the few directors who operated at a time when spectacle was still spectacle as part of cinema, and we've largely lost that these days for any number of reasons.
Right now, a spectacle is what Doomsday is going to be, or something like. I think spectacle rests somewhere between Barbie and Doomsday. And I don't mean them individually as pictures. I mean one where, it is an icon geared towards a mass audience with a message that's broad and appealing to a particular demographic, or Doomsday, which is a character palooza.
That's probably what passes for it nowadays. But again, Roland Emmerich is kind of the king of these kinds of movies. And when you said, hey, I'm looking to fill out some triple feature ideas for director focuses, his name kind of popped up in my head because I find the arc of his career interesting. And this especially came up after we reviewed, I think it was Moonfall.
Mm-hmm.
Was part of our discussion around that movie was just, man, what the heck happened to this guy? Like,
yeah. He was the king of the cinema for a window there.
Definitely one of them. And again, like, how did we get here from, this guy like breaking records to Moonfall?
A movie that tanked so hard it nearly bankrupted Lionsgate. Let me put a pause for the cause in here. German director Roland Emmerich built his reputation on, as Robert said, spectacle, massive visual effects, global destruction, and mythic storytelling about the collapse and rebirth of civilizations. On this episode, we examine Emmerich's career through, as I said before, 3 defining films: The Patriot, The Day After Tomorrow, in 2012. The Patriot cast Mel Gibson, hot off Braveheart, and Heath Ledger, not dead, in a revolutionary war epic developed after the success of Emmerich's 1990s blockbusters, combining large-scale battle production with historical drama and earning strong box office and Oscar attention. The Day After Tomorrow, starring Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal, turned climate catastrophe into one of the 2000's biggest disaster spectacles, grossing over 500 million worldwide. 500 million worldwide. Emmerich doubled down with 2012, featuring John Cusack, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Woody Harrelson, a massive 200 million production inspired by the Mayan calendar apocalypse fears that earned nearly 800 million globally. Together, these films show how Emmerich refined the modern disaster blockbuster, combining cutting-edge effects, global stakes, and mythic storytelling into a cinematic brand that still shapes big-budget spectacle today. So we have a lot to cover, and normally with triple feature and these director focuses, we might talk, like we did with John Hughes, we might talk about his other movies that he's done, but we're focusing on, it's 3 movie reviews kind of stacked together that I don't want to spend 2 hours on. So, per movie, or we'll be doing it on trial. So, this one's going to be a little bit different, and by Robert's request, we're going to go through his entire filmography, give a brief word or two on each of the movies, some of which I have not seen, so it'll be less than a word or two. And we'll stop to talk about the 3 films you see on the screen here that I've mentioned before, and then we'll keep going. And by the end of that, we'll have had a nice, meaty, girthy, lengthy discussion of what Roland Emmerich is. And I want to take a moment here to say, when I was telling my kids about this, and I said, we're going to watch some Roland Emmerich movies this weekend. We'll watch The Day After Tomorrow in 2012. Movies you guys haven't seen yet that are like the height of disaster film territory. And my son goes, I don't want to. And I'm like, why? He's like, I don't want to watch 2 hours of people running from whatever the disaster is. Like, he was much more interested in The Patriot, and I told him no, I didn't want to watch that with him.
You should have.
We just watched Glory. I wanted, change the palette.
The Revolutionary War and the Civil War are exactly the same theme, dealing with exactly the same themes.
Sure. with exactly the same politics. Listen, we had just
The
done
supreme
that.
irony being that the American Revolutionary War actually functions a lot more like a British Civil War when you look at how it played out than the American Civil War, which has a lot more defined lines for the vast majority of it. There's not nearly as much like internal politics and loyalist strongholds behind enemy lines one way or the other. Like that's much more of a thing for the Revolutionary War than the Civil War.
So, my argument to my son about Roland Emmerich and the two disaster movies I mentioned is that, this is a part of film history. You want to know all the great movies, you want to know about film history, you got to watch these to really understand what the mid 90s, early 2000s disaster movie looked like and why it was such an important part of cinema history. And he went, but I don't want to watch 2 hours of people screaming and running from the disaster, whatever it is. And he watched them anyway. And he looked at me when it was over. He said, Father, he called me Father. He said, Father, what was the point of any of this? And I went, go to your mother's. So here we go. The brilliant thing about co-parenting is that when your child defies you, you could just send him to the other parent. So here we go. There's a couple of short films to start with Roland Emmerich.
I think the one we want to start with is his like English language debut, which is 1992's Universal Soldier.
Okay, so just to be clear, on the Wikipedia page, there's director, writer, and producer. In '84, there's the Noah's Ark Principle, which he wrote and directed. Joey, not the Concrete Blonde song, also known as Making Contact, is he wrote and directed. Hollywood Monster, he wrote, directed, and produced. Moon 44, he directed and produced. And then, yes, I think that's pretty much his German history.
Mhm.
So his American debut, his English language debut, as you called it, is Universal Soldier. Robert, tell me about Universal Soldier, because I've never actually seen it.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it. Pat Mullen will just felt a great disturbance in the force. Universal Soldier is kind of a bit of a classic of the lower budget sci-fi action flick from, again, this is like 1992. The early 90s had a very unique aesthetic to them. If you look at for a couple of reasons, you get a little bit better refined special effects than late 80s, but it's not as refined. There's this giant like technological leap that happens from like 92 to 98 that movies from the early 90s actually don't look a whole lot like movies from the late 90s. So this one gives you a lot more of a stripped down approach. There's a lot of stuff that looks handheld from the direction. The basic story is Vietnam era soldiers, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren goes insane, but they're part of they wind up being part of a government program that like develops ways to, this soldier's dead. Well, if you lower their body temperature down enough, they regenerate and come back to life. That's the universal soldiers. They can just keep coming back. And traumatized, Jean-Claude Van Damme winds up on a farm, learns to reconnect, starts to put down the weaponry. Dolph Lundgren shows up. There's fights, there's explosions, all that good stuff. It's far from a good movie, but in the genre, that space that it occupies, it's a moderate touchstone.
Next is Stargate, which I think I saw. This is 1994. I'm 99.9% sure I saw this. I don't remember that much about it. I feel like its major impact on the culture was the television shows that were derived from it,
which were 3. There 2 of which were very long running. In fact, they're about to restart it. There's going to be a new Stargate television series up on, I think, Amazon. But Stargate is kind of emblematic of like the mid-budget, well, sort of mid-budget. I mean, Stargate was not a super cheap movie. Was actually, again, this, you got to put this into context. $55 million in 1990 was not a cheap movie, but it was not over the top expensive either. It's got a good cast. James Spader, Kurt Russell in particular as like the two leads. It's imaginative. It's fairly well directed. Again, it became a bit of a cult hit, and as you mentioned, it spawned the world and the possibilities presented by the technology and the story that was told here spun out into all these other things for to make it one of the it's a fairly large touchstone IP for a lot of people in the sci-fi space, especially in the sci-fi television space.
Deep Space Nine? Did Stargate precede Deep Space Nine?
It might have. I'd have to double check exactly when, but they were fairly close.
Because Deep Space Nine was predicated upon the idea of a wormhole in space being popular and an opening for economy and all this other stuff, and then of course that being on the other side of an evil empire and blah blah yakety schmackety.
It might have. Again, I'd have to double check exactly when Deep Space Nine debuted because this movie comes out in '94.
Yes, I am a senior in high school.
Hang on. I will find out exactly when Deep Space Nine debuted in January of '93. So they're close to each other.
Okay. Let's know that idea was out there, then being bandied about in different corners.
Yeah. So, but again, the kind of nowadays, if this movie had come out, it would have gotten, a handful of straight to streaming sequels instead of a big television show, because that's the world we live in. Is just that's how it would have gone. But again, on a $55 million budget, it pulled in almost 200 million worldwide, so a solid success. I forgot to mention for Universal Soldier So Universal Soldiers, again, it's a fairly cheap movie, 23 million. Now again, 23 million in 91, 92 is not 23 million today. But grossed 120 million on a $23 million budget. If you're a studio head, you're very happy with that.
So right now, Roland Emmerich is playing in space, and he's going to continue playing in space, but he's about to make a pretty monumental shift. And he's going to make that shift into the Roland Emmerich that we know today. And that movie is Independence Day, 1996. Finally, a movie I can talk about. I saw this in the theater. I was in love with the marketing for this movie. The marketing for this movie, for those that, first of all, if you don't know what Independence Day is, flying saucers show up. They blow up New York City, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles.
A bunch of other places around the world.
But those are the three in the action sequence where that takes place. Those are the three that blow up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they continue to do that, and it's discovered that the plan is that this alien, it's kind of like if the xenomorphs were spacefaring technological beings and not, army ants. So their plan is to wipe out humanity, take the resources, and then leave the planet decrepit and move on to the next one. That's what they do. So that's why they're blowing everything up. And then the humans figure out through a variety of happenstance, circumstance, and sheer luck how to get the shields down. And then the armies of the world get into Star Wars-esque dogfights, and then they win. They knock down the flying saucers, and the aliens go, "Fuck! We underestimated the humans," and they run away screaming, "Ah!"
That should have been the end of it, but then 30 years later we get a sequel that no one asked for.
Let's not talk about that. So we're here to celebrate Roland Emmerich.
Indeed.
I love this movie.
I
used to watch it every 4th of July until my
Pretty
life
much.
got blowed up and I didn't have time. But I still, to this day, I get a little teary-eyed when Bill Pullman, who plays the president in the movie, does the "Today is the day of our independence." It's a great speech. It's right up there with Aragorn at the gates of Mordor, or Rockies. That's how winning's done. It is. I mean, you think Bill Pullman, and you're like, aren't you kind of Temu Harrison Ford? And you're not wrong. But boy, can that man give a monologue. It's good stuff.
It is one of the great singular speeches from a fictional character.
Yeah. Randy plays Randy Quaid, but this time he's flying a biplane. It's fine, crop duster. This is one of Will Smith's big action roles, like at the
Yeah.
beginning of his movie career. It's kind of what makes Will Smith Will Smith.
Yeah, this is. I think this is his first like serious one. Like
Mhm.
we're not too long out of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air being done, and he's kind of in the cultural mind. But this is the first one that gets people to like see him as. I think Bad Boys technically predates this.
Right. I
But
think this is his first big action movie.
yeah,
Like Bad Boys was kind of a buddy cop thing, and you
Mhm.
can, and maybe it does well, maybe it doesn't. This is the first time someone, and granted, he's supported by an ensemble cast, but if everyone's like, where are the beginnings of big, big money Will Smith in big action movies? This is the one.
yeah. I mean, this is the start of about a 4-year stretch where Will Smith kind of owns the summer.
Yeah. So yeah, it's back when we used to have movie stars. The thing I want to say about this as it relates to Roland Emmerich as a director, this is really the first time, because again, Universal Soldier, and in American films, because prior to this is Universal Soldier and Stargate,
Mhm.
this is the first time Roland Emmerich blows a lot of stuff up on screen. He is this is a technological marvel for its time, because by this point, we don't quite have the special effects as real as they look in this movie, short of the one dog jumping away from fire. This is,
Yeah, the way that they achieved that shot of from a wide angle of us watching the ring of fire spread out through the city is a really cool trick of
Yeah.
with how they did that.
Just the scale. I mean, when Lucas did it with Star Wars, he was using models, he was doing trick photography. There's a lot going on there. Here, through the use of CGI and a number of other things, you have really cool looking dogfights. When they blow up the Empire State Building, the Capitol Building, and
Well, the White House, not the Capitol.
it was the
Building,
White
I
House.
guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember which one it was. The White House and the Capitol Records Building, in Los Angeles. It looks fucking cool as shit. And again, it isn't until Oppenheimer years later that you really get a sense of what a nuclear bomb feels like. He was doing it. Roland Emmerich was doing it in 1996. I think this is where, like, you might not know Universal Soldier and Stargate were directed by Roland Emmerich. This puts Roland Emmerich on the map. This makes Roland Emmerich's name. This puts his name in the mouth of everyday people who don't necessarily study this sort of thing. It's really funny. I told Erica what we were doing today. Erica always asks me 2 questions. She says, "What's your TikTok on today, and what's your podcast on tonight?" And I told her we were like talking about Roland Emmerich, and she goes, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Godzilla, Independence Day, 2012, The Patriot, the fucking movies I watched in the house with you." And she was like, "Well, I didn't know those were by Roland Emmerich. I don't even know who that guy is." For the people who are like Erica in the world, they used to know who Roland Emmerich was because he was the disaster movie guy. He was big summer movie, everything blowing up Roland Emmerich.
Yep. And this is the genesis of that. This is also one of the strengths of Emmerich is kind of brought to the fore in this movie. He actually does ensembles really well.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to juggle a lot of characters. I mean, his entire the genesis of this movie was like a discussion he had at a Comic-Con or some event like that, where someone asked him, like, you did Stargate where we went to the aliens. What did you think about bringing one of them here like E.T.? And he kind of went, I don't think they'd arrive like E.T. I think they'd arrive with city-sized ships over places and then start blowing stuff up. Then he leaned over to his writing partner and went, well, there's our next movie.
There you go. So the next one is Godzilla. Look, the marketing campaign, listen to me now. Stay with me, googly. The marketing campaign for Independence Day was pretty spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
It's blown off the map by Godzilla. Whatever you think of the movie, the marketing for the Godzilla movie was fucking brilliant.
If you've never seen the trailers for Roland Emmerich's 1998 Godzilla flick, look them up. They are genuinely brilliant.
The tie-ins with Taco Bell at the time that the Taco Bell dog was a thing, awesome. Like, there's certain things that are memorable, certain commercials that are memorable from my childhood or early 20s. That's one of them. It's great. I have reviewed the Godzilla movie. I have done a commentary over the Godzilla movie. I have studied this thing at length. It's not a Godzilla movie.
Not
This
really.
is its biggest problem. It is a giant lizard attacks New York movie. That is not the same. That's the biggest problem with Godzilla. Because if you just accept that it's a giant kaiju monster lizard, mutant lizard, if Roland Emmerich's pitch was, I want to do like a 40s or 50s style giant thing attack city movie, as was big at the time, the 50-foot woman, things like that. And then you watch this movie, it's fine. It's entertaining. It's a little slow in parts. But for the most part, it works. Some of the casting is a bit questionable. I think if you put some stronger leads in there, I love Matthew Broderick, but I don't know if he was right for this movie. Certainly,
He's okay.
The broad he works across could have been replaced with a better actress.
A lot of the female casting in that movie is weak.
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick's fine. John Reno's great. Hank Azaria's funny.
Yeah. So my point is, the biggest thing working against Godzilla is that they said that they're pitching it as a Godzilla movie when it really is just a monster movie.
Everything up to and including the first time Godzilla attacks Manhattan is a really good bit of Godzilla filmmaking. And I say that like it would fit in any Godzilla movie. Like that stretch where we know something's wrong, we're assembling the people to look for it, we're on its tail, but we don't know what we're dealing with. And the first time we kind of see it as it wrecks a bit of the city. That's all very good. Then it settles into, well, we got to find him in Manhattan, and what do we do with this? And things start to slow down and fall apart. The only other bit of that movie I genuinely stand up for is the bit where they are in Madison Square Garden. Because I actually think it's a fairly effective horror-adjacent monster sequence when the, baby Godzillas are just raptors chasing them.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like, as a monster movie where the premise is giant lizard attacks New York and nests in Madison Square Garden, great. Here's $200 million. Make me a winner, baby. Don't call it Godzilla.
Yeah, it really is the weak. Like you said, the fact that it is a Godzilla movie means we have expectations, and it fails to live up to them.
Well, it would be like if you pitched Congo as a King Kong movie. It's not King Kong. It's something else.
Yeah. That said, the 98 Godzilla is really nice second screen viewing. I've used it as that for a long time, and that has ups and downs. Again, the first act is really solid, but the middle is weak, and the finale is, it's not bad, but it's not great either. So you go, again, going from Independence Day, where he kind of reshapes the summer blockbuster landscape that year, to, okay, what do you want to do? Well, I'd really like to make a Godzilla movie, and we get what we get, and it's kind of It's still a financial success, mind you. It's not a huge success. The budget's somewhere between 125 and 150 million. It makes 379 million.
Yeah. It was expected
it's okay,
to do a lot more.
Financial returns.
Here's the thing. Non-Godzilla fans like it just fine.
Yeah.
Because it was a monster movie and they don't know about Godzilla lore.
And again, as a generic monster movie, you're right. This is fine. Fine to good, even.
Mm-hmm.
But
so
it's so weird to me that in the aftermath of Independence Day and then Godzilla,
I was going to do the transition, but you do yours.
Okay. So we've gone from Independence Day, where he, again, reshaped the summer landscape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Independence Day was one of the most financially successful movies that year. On a $75 million budget, it made $817 million. Bear in mind, again, this is 1996. So do the inflation math if you feel like it. That's a lot of money. Then Godzilla's iffy, and he decides okay, so what do I do to get back on track? I blew everything up.
It's kind of what that's what I was going to say. At this point, Roland Emmerich and blow up New York on screen are kind of synonymous.
So what do I do? Well, he settles on doing The Patriot. Now, someone else wrote it, so he's just directing it, but it's such a weird thing for him to have gone from, I say this with love, but summer blockbuster schlock, spectacle schlock. I mean, Godzilla's more schlocky than Independence Day, to this significantly more serious, dramatic take on part of the American Revolutionary War. It's a weird choice. I don't think it's a bad one. I think it's very much this movie. I mean, we're going to keep going. This stands out in his filmography for all kinds of reasons.
So the Patriot, can you do you have it up there, or do I need to look it up? The
what?
awards for this thing.
Let me have a quick look. So false reviews, controversy, accolades. Was nominated for 3 Oscars: Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. It received several Guild Awards, including the American Society of Cinematographers Award, makeup and hairstyling, so a bunch of production stuff
So
that it
what
won
I,
on various different circuits.
what I remember of it was this comes in the shadow of Mel Gibson doing Braveheart, and I remembered there being some derision of the Patriot back then. Maybe it was just in the circles I traveled in. I can't say it, and it was long enough ago that I don't have total memory of it. It was just a feeling like I remember not watching The Patriot because no one I knew was taking it seriously, and then I did watch The Patriot, and I'm like, holy shit, a cannonball just took off that guy's leg. Like that's pretty cool. Watching it again with 2026 eyes and a master's degree in therapy, wow, what a what an exercise in trauma this is. Like for all the Gen Z and Gen Alpha pansy wastes out there, and I think some of you millennials who therapy speak yourselves into an early grave. You want to see a movie that shows you what processing your trauma is like, actual trauma. Watch The Patriot. It's fucking brilliant.
There's some problems with this movie. Again, we're actually going to give it a little bit of the review treatment here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those very weird things, and I've seen this experiment done. If you take a movie as is, but put another director's name on it, what people think about it afterwards. So the big one I remember this happening with was AI, artificial intelligence, which is...
That's Spielberg, right?
Yes. It's a very uneven movie. But the thing, I remember they did this experiment where at the end of that movie, they, instead of saying directed by Spielberg, the title card came up directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's the exact same movie. We just end with saying Kubrick did this instead of Spielberg. What do you think about it? How do you feel about it? Right. Just knowing who directed it changed their perspective, even with not a single change of frame. And I think this movie is one of those that suffers a little bit from people going, wait, Roland Emmerich, the Independence Day guy, is going to do a Revolutionary War movie?
The guy that ruined Godzilla? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like, this guy does there's pigeonholing of the director in your perception of him, such that this movie I don't think was given a very fair shake. Now, it's not perfect, mind you, but this is a really good movie.
So the basic premise is Mel Gibson comes home from the war in 1812, and he's a bit traumatized from the things that he's done, and we'll find out what specifically he did later on in the movie. But he's like, and I can't remember which character this
not the War of
me
1812, for the record.
The French and Indian War.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The French
1812 would be after the founding of the America as a country.
Good point. Sorry about that in my head. There's your correction for the show. Yes, the French and Indian War. There's another character where it's just like, I've killed a lot of people, I've done a lot of bad things, and now I just want to be, I just want to be a... I
want to be a father. I want to be a husband. I want to be a father.
I want to be a pacifist is where I was going with this. And so that's kind of where he's at in life. He's like, I got a farm. I got 100 kids. I just, and then after all that, my wife dies. So it's just me and the kids now. and like I really don't want to be a part of things, but you know, there's a lot of taxation without representation going on. There's a lot of, you know, having to take care of British soldiers and let them live in your house. There's a lot of stuff here, and the colonists are getting a bit irritated. And so there's talk of, hey, why don't we secede from England? How about that? Why don't we be our own country? And Mel Gibson's like, look, every time I'm in a war, it's a bad thing, and I don't want to keep doing it. And then the war kind of comes to him. I know his son, who is Heath Ledger, goes to enlist. I'm kind of speed running through this, so don't stop me every 10 seconds to tell me, no, here's what to do. So,
unless you miss something of real importance, I'll let you go.
Ultimately, he is given charge of forming a militia, and they're said, go
Okay,
into
now
South,
you missed a big thing.
go into South Carolina. I said speed running. Go into South Carolina and deal with the British for a while so that we can get the army in place and, you know, and have ourselves a time. He does. So the next third of the movie is getting this militia together and then going to fight the British as the militia, and they are like guerrilla fighters. They're like hiding in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are not, you know, in traditional colonial warfare, you walked in giant lines and you had a massive army of men and some artillery fire like cannons and whatnot. And, you know, as one line shot their muskets, the other one's reloading, and you take turns and, you know, you kill a lot of people. They are no match for the sheer volume of British soldiers. So again,
well, not just the number, but like the discipline.
Yeah.
And the British Army at the time was about the best you could get fighting that style of warfare.
Yeah. The style of warfare, walking into gunfire and not running your ass off, which is a real thing. It's like the problem they have, but it's what's said of the militia is like every time we have a militia, they run like cowards. So there's a lot of that going on. Another son ends up, prior to that, what kind of motivates this whole thing is another one of his sons gets killed by the British. The villain in the movie, a British captain of sorts,
Colonel.
He's taking aim at Mel Gibson's family, and at some point, Cornwallis, who is like the best performer in the movie, he's awesome in this. He basically says, hey, "Look, I know I scolded you earlier in the movie about dirty tactics, but it's about the only way we're going to get this guy. So go be terrible, and I will take care of you." And so they set Mel Gibson's sister-in-law's home on fire, and there's a whole bunch of other shit that happens. I think by the time we get to the final battle, Heath Ledger is dead. Yeah, Heath Ledger died fighting the villain.
His wife gets killed with a bunch of civilians who are burned alive in a church. Mm-hmm. Then he takes some people and charges after Colonel Tavington, and they fight. Tavington wins and kills him, and then Mel Gibson and he face off during the climactic battle.
Right. And so yes, and then so this is really what we're talking about here. That final sequence where you have the massive British army and the colonial army, and they are facing off, and you are seeing cannon fire. And when you think about cannon fire, I think when most people think about cannon fire, they think about Jake and the Neverland Pirates. You know, or Bugs Bunny. Here's a cannon. It shoots a ball. It hits a pirate ship. Okay, same principle. Only it's, you know, you're shooting it straight away at people. And so
to say nothing of using, you know, canister shot or grape shot or explosive rounds. So artillery is a whole science unto itself.
So what Roland Emmerich shows you through the use of CGI is what happens when a giant metal ball at high speed hits a guy and rolls through like a bowling ball, taking off guys' legs. Earlier in the movie, they had shown you what colonial surgery was like. Surgery. As in removing limbs. And Ronnie says, and heads. It is, you would swear it was real. This is like the best stuff. Like, The Patriot is one of those movies where you're just waiting for that final battle. Like, this is what we came here for. This is what we wanted to see, was the giant fuck all battle. And then we get it, and it's like the best thing ever. Mel Gibson, for his part, rallying the troops is great stuff. You know, him picking up the flag and running with it and in it working a magical spell where everyone kind of goes, oh wait, I am no longer. He rolled a 20, and used charisma to turn everyone the other way.
Look,
that's how it's shot. At least I'm making somewhat of a
joke. That is how it's shot, but it's an important. This is something that is largely misunderstood about warfare. That up to basically the American Civil War, most casualties incurred in battle were not during the actual fighting. It was during when one side broke.
Yeah,
that's when the actual casualties pile up, especially true of medieval warfare, by the way. Like actual shield walls colliding, yeah, people die, but not in huge numbers. When one side breaks, when the line breaks,
right,
that's when it all goes to hell.
That's where you hear hold the line.
So when you get moments like this where part of the line wavers, rallying the line is a real important thing because that stops the cavalry from like punching through holes, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. This is a real phenomena, and it's about the last time in modern warfare that it was a thing.
So they win. The army is able to push the British back. Cornwallis takes a huge loss, and then of course Washington wins his side, and we eventually become a country that will years later start bombing Iran.
Iran needed to be bombed.
The Patriot. I love this movie. It's fantastic. It really does. Mel Gibson. I know what people think of him now, but this is also like I think peak Mel Gibson when he was up there. When he was also a movie star, and a big leading man, and in this sexy thing. I'm thinking of what a Girl Wants, or whatever the fuck movie that was.
What Women Want.
Yeah, where he could read women's minds.
He could read thoughts, yeah.
So, like, this is peak Mel Gibson, and he's great. For all the, I think, guff that people give him, he is genuinely good in this movie. Heath Ledger is good in this. There's not a bad acting choice in this. And then, like I said, we have really great, stellar special effects that give you a sense of what war at that time was like. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I'm with you. I really enjoy this. Again, we see one of the strengths of Emmerich is like managing an ensemble very well. Mel Gibson, man, again, for all whatever you think about like his worldview or whether or not how his sanity, he is a tremendously gifted actor. And I don't think I've ever seen a bad Mel Gibson performance. He's really good. Heath Ledger does everything that's asked of him here. He's still young in his career, so he's not the most the most magnetic screen presence at this point in time, but
he's young, he's cute, and he's able to deliver his lines.
Yeah.
and keep an accent. It's fine.
Yeah, again, he is exactly what
better than most given the same circumstances.
Boy, ain't that the truth. You mentioned the guy who plays Cornwallis is really good. That actor's name escapes me at the moment. Yeah, as Ronnie mentioned, like this kind of saved Heath Ledger's acting career because it's kind of off the back of this that he gets stuff like 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale, which get him like into his status before his tragic early passing. Rene Auberjonois does a really good job as one of the supporting roles. Jason Isaacs creates one of the most detestable villains you'll ever meet, and I mean that as a compliment of the highest order.
Back when we weren't afraid to make villains detestable.
Yeah, like he is just unrelentingly evil.
Yeah.
He's great. But just to briefly touch on it, like you mentioned, like a lot of this movie is about, what do you do with all the bad stuff that happened to you? And there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in this movie. I mean, there's one guy whose family is killed and he just commits suicide on the spot.
Yep.
Mel Gibson loses. He's lost his wife before the movie. He loses both of his sons by the end of it. He's got a daughter who literally won't speak to him. But that scene when she actually does.
When she does, like, Papa, don't leave. Oh, the heartbreaking.
Genuinely. Like, look, Roland Emmerich is never going to be, Spielberg kind of or Scorsese. But the notion that he can't.
Wait till we get to the era where Roland Emmerich's wife left him.
Well, that's before this. Like, this is the joke. Like, if you look at the last couple of movies from Roland Emmerich, his romantic self-insert in Independence Day is the Jeff Goldblum character, who is divorced but gets back together with his wife by the end of it. And in fairness to that movie, it's handled maturely. Like, their breakup was not a stupid thing for a stupid reason, and it's handled well. You know, Godzilla has the estranged couple. Yeah, Tom Wilkinson. Thank you, Ronnie. Tom Wilkinson, a very underappreciated actor. That dude just is money. And in this one, it's still, you know, the single dad who's looking to move on. But we're not dealing with like the ex-wife baggage here the same way we're going to in the near future.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that. If you haven't seen The Patriot, I think it's worth your time. It doesn't shy away from, you know, this war being complicated and brutal.
I would say this is one of his smarter movies.
This might be the actual smartest movie he's made.
Yeah. All right, let's move on with our list here. So, right, we're gonna right into our next full review of The Day After Tomorrow.
See, this is still not quite when his ex-wife is remarried, Roland Emmerich, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Basically, this is a mythological folktale climate alarmist movie. Period.
You know, one of the reasons I kind of stick up for this movie, this is the weirdest thing about it. In the intervening years since The Day After Tomorrow was released, this movie has become among the less preachy versions of climate change film you'll find.
Yeah, so this one isn't nearly as shrill as what's going to come after it. The premise of this movie is basically there are things afoot in the world where
I can give you the sort of pseudoscience about this if you like.
I mean, if you can do it in like 50 words or less.
Believe it or not, actually, I can. So we've melted the ice caps such to the point that the ocean has become slightly desalinated from what it should be, because the ocean is salt water. And a lot of the currents that operate within the ocean rely on how that works. Like the salt components of different parts of the ocean are part of what get the currents going. It's not the only thing, but it's part of it. And desalinating the oceans then disrupts the currents, which then triggers all kinds of bad, crazy weather, and we get the big superstorms that we get out of the film.
All right, so basically the entire like northern hemisphere faces an ice age, and this was predicted several months back. It happened a lot faster than anyone was prepared for. So the two characters kind of having that tension are, I just had his name.
Dennis Quaid.
No. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
No, that's 2012.
Dennis Quaid. So yeah, merging two movies together. So
it's entirely understandable that those two would become blurred in your mind.
Yeah. Long story short, Dennis Quaid's like, get everyone the fuck out of the north, and you know,
get everyone to southern Texas, basically.
Yeah, get everybody that you can as far south as possible, Mexico, if at all possible. Which is a great, really, really funny thing in there, where it's just like Mexico doesn't want those people. You know, your politics a little too in this movie, there, sir. Because they're making an immigration comment there, but well, anyway, I don't want to.
Hang on. In fairness to that point, they actually play it with humor. Like the newscaster's voiceover over it is like, in a shocking reversal from what's normally seen on the southern border, Americans pouring into Mexico.
Yeah,
and Mexico has agreed to. Yeah, and Mexico's agreed to accept them in exchange for the forgiveness of all debt.
Yeah, sure. I just kind of rolled my eyes at that. Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's there for a joke. That's really all it is.
Yeah. Is Dennis Quaid's son. He's in New York when it's about to be frozen over. Period, comma, the end. It's going to get hit with a tsunami, and then that tsunami is going to freeze. And it's going to be 100 feet of snow, and he's going to freeze to death if Dennis Quaid don't go get him. So half the movie is Dennis Quaid going up the down staircase while everyone else is either freezing where they are or trying to get down south. He's going up to New York from, I think it's DC.
Yeah, something like that.
In a blizzard with his research partners, who, like, one of which dies along the way. Meanwhile, Dennis Quaid and a hot girl and an assortment of other characters are in a library in New York City, and they are just trying to not die. That's the movie. That is the whole movie, over 2 hours or some odd thing with this thing. And this is where, more so than I think than Independence Day, where you go to see whatever the new Roland Emmerich disaster movie is. It kind of reminds me of old Hollywood, where you go see the new Humphrey Bogart, you go see the new whatever. It was less about what the movie is and more about the actor in it. This is one of those, or if you like, in the 70s and at the golden age of filmmaking, you go to see the new Scorsese, you go to see the new Kubrick, that kind of a thing. You would go to see the new Emmerich, and this was the new Emmerich, and it was a climate folktale, a warning to not melt the polar ice caps. It's okay. I appreciate it for its spectacle, for its depiction of New York in tsunami and blizzard. I appreciate Roland Emmerich's ability to constantly keep destroying New York. Outside of that, it kind of drags in places.
This does drag in places, but this is the kind of movie that I'm never sad to see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I almost never will go out of my way to watch it personally, but if it's on, I'm okay to watch it. But again, to play into the joke about, this is where Roland Emmerich is actually having to deal with, his divorce, because Dennis Quaid and I forget the actress's name. She's a fairly famous one, who is his, ex-wife. They're acrimonious and they're sniping a little bit at each other. And this is him trying to process his way through some of that. And now the kid's involved. It's a good, this is, again, at the time, this was regarded as a preachy movie. In the year of our Lord 2026, it's downright subtle. Given sort of the tenor that climate film has taken these days.
I think making a note that this is also like during Dennis Quaid's big time Dennis Quaid era.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dennis Quaid, people don't know Dennis Quaid now, and if they do, maybe they remember him as Superman's dad. Maybe they don't. Maybe nobody knows who Dennis Quaid is anymore. We don't make star actors.
Wait,
anymore.
when was Dennis Quaid Superman's dad?
Oh God, who am I thinking of? Kevin Costner. Same guy.
Kevin Costner, if that's the case.
Same guy. But there was a point where, like, Dennis Quaid, Kevin Costner, very much handsome, everyday guys were leading men. He was one of them. This was absolutely right in the midst of him being able to lead a movie like this. When we get to 2012 and John Cusack, I have a different argument to make.
Yeah, and you will not be alone in that argument. Let me say this about Dennis Quaid. He's a professional.
Yeah. He's
a good actor, and I have followed him into some weird movies because I know he's never going to give less than his best.
My God, in my head, all I see is Kevin Costner, and I know it's not Kevin Costner. I know it's fucking Dennis Quaid.
But so that's led me down some weird movies with Dennis Quaid in significant roles, because I'm never worried about what he does. In fact, I'm frequently interested in it. That has worked out for me on occasion.
Now all I can think about is him in The Substance.
Yeah, but again, he does a great job as the character. He's always worth watching, and that has led me to watch some weird movies that I might not have otherwise seen. The one that always comes to my mind in particular in this vein is a horror movie called Horseman, which he plays the lead in, and it's not. I was pleasantly surprised with that movie, actually, when it was all said and done. Or you realize he's in this new Netflix action movie that briefly, and like, oh man, like, bless you for doing what you can, buddy, but man, that movie was not very good.
It's a fun game. Costner or Quaid?
Okay, what? You gonna list a movie and I have to remember which one of them's in it?
I'm not gonna do that right now, but I was just thinking about that, like trying to remember all the Dennis Quaid and Kevin Costner movies, and there's
Most of us don't have that same problem that you're having right now, Mark.
whatever. So yeah, The Day After Tomorrow is worth it to watch. What were disaster movies like at the height of disaster movies?
Yeah.
Beyond that, not really.
Again, this is a very good TNT movie.
Yeah.
Back when that was a thing, right?
All right, so back to the list here.
He follows this up with a weird one.
10,000 BC, which I never saw.
It's a weird. Again, this is a weird choice. It's overly, despite only being 109 minutes, it feels its runtime, which is a weird thing to say. It didn't do great in a $105 million budget. It made 269, which actually that was one of the things I forgot to mention about The Day After Tomorrow. It's another success for him. $125 million budget, $555 million box office take. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Mm-hmm.
The disaster flick genre, when handled properly, is an order of magnitude greater than the horror genre, but the same principle applies. You invest a relatively small amount of money, or smallish, and you get a decent return on it. And this is how studios are built.
Yeah, this is where Roland Emmerich is believed by the studios to be a reliable practitioner.
Yeah. We're about to lose that one, by the way, because again, 10,000 BC is a weird one.
Okay.
And then we get to 2012.
The other side of the double feature, the disaster double feature, like if you're gonna watch any two Roland Emmerich movies back to back, to give you an idea of about where he jumps the shark, it's 2012.
Right now.
Yeah. So that stars John Cusack at the time where John Cusack is good as a lead if you're putting him in things like Grosse Pointe Blank.
He's the lead in a horror movie called Identity around this time. Which
one is he in? Is he in The Rock or is he in Con Air?
He's in Con Air. He's the second lead in Con Air behind Nicolas Cage.
Right. So
give me a sec. Let me pull up Cusack's filmography.
So from Say Anything on, John Cusack, they're trying to make him a leading man in Hollywood, and he's either good as the co-star or he's good in smaller movies. Like I said, Grosse Pointe Blank is probably the best movie he's ever done.
So if you want to understand a little bit like what he's talking about with John Cusack here. So Grosse Pointe Blank comes out in 1997, as does Con Air, as does Chicago Cab, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. He's in The Thin Red Line the next year. 99 is a weird one. Like the big thing there was kind of was Being John Malkovich, which is a weird movie.
That's an art house film.
He does Serendipity. He does Adaptation. He does Identity and Runaway Jury, Must Love Dogs. He's in all these kinds of things. They're, like you said, they're desperately trying to make him a thing. He's in 1408 in 2007, which is a pretty good movie. But he just can't. It never really clicks.
Yeah.
And 2012 is like the last gasp. That and The Raven are the last gasps of let's make John Cusack a thing.
He is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And when they try to make him the bride, America doesn't buy it. And so this is his shot. 2012 is his last gasp at trying to transition into stardom and into movie star territory. He won't, and he will continue to be a good working actor, and that's the best thing I'm gonna say. But I like John Cusack.
Look, I don't have anything against John Cusack. He's for a certain kind of movie, he's a very good lead. For a level above that, he's a very good supporting actor.
The one
he's like Kevin Bacon.
What's the one he's in with Jack Black? His other really good movie, High Fidelity. John Cusack is best used in Grosse Pointe Blanks and High Fidelity type movies. He is not well used as the lead in this one, but he doesn't have to be, because the lead in 2012 is the disaster itself. So basically, through a bunch of science gobbledygook,
There's a shift in a type of radiation emitted by the sun that affects the Earth's core, starts boiling more water, no matter like what kind of shielding you put in front of it. So the Earth's core is going sideways. Everything's about to go upside down.
Right. So there's a bunch of earthquakes, tsunamis, et cetera, et cetera. The world is ending.
The poles reverse, sea levels rise, places sink, volcanoes erupt. Like literally every disaster you can think of happens in this movie.
So we spend a lot of this movie. There were two things kind of happening at the same time. John Cusack trying to get his family to safety. That's one whole plot line. The second is, what the fuck's the name of the guy?
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
And the other one, his arch enemy in this movie?
Oliver Platt.
Thank you, Oliver Platt. So Oliver Platt works for the government.
I have a name I can say. I'll go with that one.
Yeah. So Oliver Platt and the other fellow, Baron Mordo from fucking Doctor Strange. So Baron Mordo's like, hey, the end of the world is going to happen. Oliver Platt says, I believe you. And then it happens a lot sooner than they thought. A plan is hatched that they're going to create 3 arcs, and they're going to get as many people on these arcs as they can, but it's not going to be everybody. Some people are just going to have to die.
It can't, there's a better version of this story that's literally all about, okay, we cannot save everyone here. And they touch on this with, Platt and some of the other government characters that we spend a little bit of time with. Like, what are we going to... It's important that everything that we can save about not just individual people, but
art,
what it means to be human, our culture, our way of life. This is all stuff that needs to be preserved and saved. And how do we do that? That's a big part of this. That's a chunk of this movie.
There's a really good line in this, because what you end up finding out, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go back a sec, because I need to kind of explain this movie a little bit better. But there's a line that Oliver Platt says where it's discovered through another character that people paid like $1 billion to get on this arc.
Yeah, a ticket was €1 billion.
And there's like, well, why would you do that? And he was like, well, who the fuck did you think was paying for this? Like, these ships had to be built by somebody. They weren't, and these were, they had X amount of time to do this. They had to do it fast, and they had to do it well, because if it doesn't work, we die.
So they did it in China.
Well, that, but also, like, this stuff takes money. And there's a discussion. It's not handled the best way, but I like the fact that the movie did make that discussion about pragmatism versus humanitarianism. Because humanitarianism is great in a vacuum. It doesn't always last against pragmatism.
It's one of the things
that's kind of the whole argument that the movie is making.
It's one of the things I appreciate about near the end, when there's a bunch of people and like everything's going sideways. And Oliver Platt's character's like, I don't care that these people paid to be here. The wave's coming. Let's be done with this. And Ejiofor's character makes the point, like, guys, we've made tremendous sacrifices, made impossibly difficult decisions to get us here to try and survive. But for God's sake, can we have a little bit of humanity right now? These people are here. We can save them. This is what makes us worth saving. Yeah. And I think to your point, like, this is not the smartest handling of the argument, but neither character makes a stupid point.
Yep. So I want to go back. The reason to see this movie is to watch the Earth crack.
Woody Harrelson gets to watch the Yellowstone caldera erupt firsthand.
Yeah. Oh boy, does he. The point of going to this movie is to watch the Earth blow up. And then you have to, and so a large portion of this movie is John Cusack running from the Earth. That's it. That is the whole movie. It's cool to watch. It's fun to watch all the earthquakes in California. It's fun to watch the volcano blow up and kill Woody Harrelson. It's fun to watch all the tsunamis and giant waves.
Danny Glover is the president, and he gets killed in a tsunami.
Yep. So all that stuff is fun to watch. The problem is it's a third of this movie. You would think in a disaster movie of this magnitude, it would be 2/3 of the movie. It's not. It's only a third. So there are long sequences when it's happening, and then longer sequences when it's not happening. And when it's not happening, this movie is not interesting. I like John Cusack. He's doing his level best. They don't give him anything to work with. The ensemble around him, meh. And I like the ex-husband character. He's Beecher in Oz. By the way, aside, I finally watched Whiplash because I didn't want to hear my son cry about it anymore, so I watched it last night. It's good. I really enjoyed it. J.K. Simmons is one of the best actors. You know, he is God's gift to acting. So my son doesn't know that he's from Oz. And
so the entire relationship between him and dead-eyed Miles Teller takes on a different turn when you know Schillinger and Oz.
All I could think about was, you know what I've always wondered, Miles, you might want to drum faster. Yeesh.
Yeah.
So my son goes, J.K.
So
Simmons
jokes about sodomy go right over your son's head.
Well, that's the thing. So he's like, J.K. Simmons, I think, is my favorite actor, is what he tells me. He's like, he's great on Invincible. He's great as J. Jonah Jameson. And I go, yeah, he was great on Oz. And my son goes, what's that, father? And I'm like, well, it's too much for you. You're 12. You're not supposed to be watching it. You also shouldn't be watching Better Call Saul, but I can't watch you all the time. And, you know, you only live with me half of it. So I'm not telling you to watch Oz. But J.K. Simmons plays Schillinger, who's the lead Nazi on Oz, and I don't know.
You can't say that. That spoils his character introduction, which really only works if you don't know what's coming.
Well, I asked my son, I'm like, son, you know when I do this, you know what I've always wondered? You know how I make that gesture? He was like, yeah, I never knew where you got that from. And I'm like, well, that would be. I know it set that up now. When I explained to him who Schillinger is, he was like, oh my god, he has sex with other men in that show? Heavens to Betsy. And I'm like, oh, does he ever? And then I went like this. I'm like, you know how I do this all the time? He's like, oh, you do it, J.K. Simmons? He's like fanning himself. Faints, his sister catches him. He's like, oh my goodness. And he's like, I'll never see him the same way again. I'm like, I've never seen him the same way since. So he was like, okay, so I have to see him in Oz at some point. I'm like, when you're older, much older, please. And he was like, okay. So that was fun. I didn't get on J.K. Simmons, but
did you finally watch Whiplash?
Right. I don't know why. I know I wanted to tell you that story, but I don't know what we're talking about led me to Whiplash. But Beecher. That's what it was. Like, I like Beecher in this, but he's playing like, you know,
he's playing. This is the movie that Roland Emmerich.
He's playing the new husband, and he's trying to not be a douchebag.
This is the movie where Roland Emmerich's ex-wife got remarried, and this is him trying to deal with it.
Yeah. So
there's
not enough good characters around John Cusack to make his storyline interesting, short of him fleeing for his life. Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, this is the movie where we see Roland Emmerich having to start dealing with, oh, my ex has moved on. And his way of processing this is, in my stories, all my male protagonists are divorced. The person that my wife has married now is not a bad guy, but he has to die for me to get back together with my family.
Yeah.
So he kills them in increasingly terrible ways, even though they're not bad people.
Yep.
I mean, if I have a gripe with this movie, he has some mean-spirited character deaths in this that are not deserved.
Yeah.
Between, again, Beecher, the blonde Russian lady who just drowns horribly on screen.
Yep.
I'm fine with the Russian gangster sacrificing himself to save his kids. That I'm okay with. But, like, there's a lot of the characters that die here that die pretty meanly. And, like, they didn't deserve that. Yeah. Again, you killed the new husband just so that John Cusack could get back together with Amanda Peet, not because he deserved it in any capacity.
So a third of this movie is also Oliver Platt and Ejiofor fighting over what to do about the dying planet. It's carried by their performances. It's not that interesting. Speaking as they do it for a third of the movie.
Yeah, this is kind of the apex of what it means to be an Emmerich film. Like, it's big, it's dumb, everything blows up. I can't believe he made more in this vein after this. You'd think this would get it out of his system.
Yeah. So the big problem with this movie is you come to see the Earth blow up. It stops blowing up about halfway through. The last bit of it is them just getting on the ship. And it's kind of like when Anakin and Padme are going through like the machines as they're breaking into Mustafar, or not Mustafar, as they're breaking into Genosis, where it's just like one, one Saw-esque trap after another. That's kind of what this movie becomes. It's the characters trying to get onto this boat, but but they're drowning over here and they're caught in a gear over there, and
this part of the
fucking
release isn't
tedious.
working, and
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Right. And then while I appreciate the depth of what was happening, it takes too long for them to come to the conclusion we have to save the people. And then the ship barely gets out of there because it gets whacked in, because the Air Force One gets like knocked into it under,
Another ship gets knocked into it, and
Yeah,
this is
it's-
after a big tsunami is crested over Mount Everest.
It's like somebody told Roland Emmerich, you know what makes a movie great? Make it 4 hours. Like, draw out everyone makes fun of Michael Bay for the slow mo. This is worse. This is
Zack
worse.
Snyder's the one they make fun of for the slow mo, not Michael Bay.
Yeah. He's Ronnie's comment here. He outran an earthquake in a limo. What's not to like? I mean, again, when that stuff stops, so does the movie. Anything else about this one?
Yeah, again, this is kind of the nadir, the peak of what it means to be a Roland Emmerich movie. At least I thought so.
Yep. All right, so those are the 3 movies that we decided to focus on for triple feature. Not done this format, we'd have gone into a little bit more length, some of the production and whatnot, but we have to now finish off the list here. So after 2012 is Anonymous, which I did not see.
I haven't seen that
Thoughts?
one either.
In 2013, he did White House Down. This spawned 2 sequels and a television show.
Yes, it did. And there was a brief period in like 2000, in the early teens, when we got a repeat of a phenomena that occurred in Hollywood in the 90s. That was the bizarre twin effect. 2 movies in close proximity that are clearly based on the same idea. In the 90s, in the disaster genre, you had Volcano and Dante's Peak in close proximity. You had Deep Impact and Armageddon in close proximity. In this, you have White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen, which is, I think, more the one you're thinking of.
Yes, god damn it. I am way off my game tonight. Olympus Has Fallen has the 2 sequels and a television show.
Yeah, because White House Down is the one that stars Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx, and it died on the vine.
Oh boy, did I screwed that up. Also, woof, that's awful.
Yeah, Olympus Has Fallen is the one with Gerard Butler. The first one is Gerard Butler, Aaron Eckhart, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
That series is actually, the first one is the best. The next 2 we've reviewed on Damn You Hollywood, and I think have, in different ways, have things that are worth watching about them.
Jesse and I reviewed the show. Had that, and we said at the time, because it was made in Europe, it's awesome because it doesn't fall into any of the American pitfalls. Had it been made in America, it would have been terrible. We loved Paris Has Fallen.
Hang on, was that? Yeah, because London Has Fallen was the
sequel,
movie.
was the second movie. So anyway,
iffy.
Let's just move on to the next one here. Stonewall. So I can talk about this. Sean and I.
Of all the again, like this is Roland Emmerich going back to when he made The Patriot. Like maybe this will resuscitate my career a little bit if I try to do another prestige film.
Sean and I reviewed this one for Pride Month, and
I forget which year, but yeah, a couple of years ago.
Might have been like the first year we did these. And I remember, like, I used to break them into like the good prestige gay movies, the bad prestige gay movies, and this was in the bad batch. Yeah, because when I think about who can handle the subtlety and the deftness of dealing with the Stonewall riots, a pillar moment in the queer community, think the guy that did 2012. And Sean and I talked about this. It's like, I think he wanted to tell another. I think he wanted to make another disaster movie because he knows the whole Stonewall event ends with a riot, and I think if he could gotten away with it, he could have had like the gays blowing up New York. The problem is he had to make it somewhat realistic, so he couldn't do that, and he doesn't really get the politics. He doesn't really empathize with the gays, and he just kind of want to get to the riot, and the riot isn't the earth blowing up or freezing.
It's also
over.
the least interesting part of that story.
Right. So he was the exact wrong person to do Stonewall, and that movie is not good.
Yep. And then in his last desperate bid, there's 2 movies after this one, but his last like desperate bid to regain the public trust. In 2016, again, some almost 20 plus years after the original, back when
he is fucking swinging at Ghost at this point.
And bear in mind, in 2016, the entire Hollywood machine is with him swinging at Ghosts like, hey, let's regenerate IP. So we get Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah.
Which Mark and I reviewed on Damn You Hollywood.
And we did the usual Damn You Hollywood hate fuck fest. We kicked it, we curb stomped it, we wished Hollywood would stop doing it, and we asked Roland Emmerich, have you lost all of your creative juices? Like, that you had to go back to Independence Day. Independence Day makes so many bad decisions. It's like, it's like a drunk person trying to drive a bus full of nuns.
There's not a good thing to be said about Independence Day Resurgence. A few years later, he follows that up with Midway, which I think might be the last halfway decent thing he did.
I don't remember us hating Midway.
Well, we didn't review it.
Yeah, sure we did.
I was not on that review then, because I remember not reviewing it with you. I've seen it, but
I was like, I remember seeing. What year is this again? This
2019.
Yeah, so I'm like dealing with fucking cancer again. I know I saw this, but who knows?
I'm not saying you didn't see it. I'm saying we did. I was not on the review.
Yeah, I'm now looking to see if this in fact happened, because I know I saw it for the purposes of review.
I feel like something fell apart in there, at least on my end, maybe.
Oh, I may have possibly died. Who knows? Which is probably what happened, because you're right. We didn't review it. We were supposed to. We were meant to, or I wouldn't have seen the damn thing. But I was probably in the fucking hospital or something.
I feel like, yeah, you saw it a couple of days before, and then by the time we got closer, you went, I can't do this. And I hadn't seen it yet, so I got to avoid it then. I've since seen it. It's not the original Midway movie is a much more faithful recreation of the actual Battle of Midway, which is a really great battle and a great story. This is an okay retelling of that. It's not great,
but we went through this exercise because we wanted to talk about the entirety of Roland Emmerich's career. This is where Roland Emmerich is trying to recreate what do you call it? Lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the pattern here, he's like, well, I haven't had a decent hit since 2012.
Yeah. Again, 2012 does well, but that's also the point at which everyone kind of decides we're done with him in this style.
Right.
And
so Anonymous, White House Down, Stonewall, all fail. So then he's like, well, let me go back to the well again with something that did do well with Independence Day.
For the record. So Anonymous, if you're not familiar with this is a drama based on the theory that Shakespeare was a fraud and a bunch of his plays were not actually written by him. $30 million budget, which is appropriate for that kind of a drama piece. It only makes $15 million. It is a horrible bomb. He was absolutely the wrong guy to play that, to handle that. White House Down again. It fails because it's coming out again around the same time as another movie with the same premise that's much, much better. This has a $150 million budget, only does $200 million worldwide. Stonewall, as mentioned, doesn't even have a budget listed. Box office take of only $292,000. Then Resurgence, which again is like, boy, maybe I can get back to form. $165 million budget, not including advertising. $389 million worldwide. This is a money-losing endeavor.
Right. So, like I said, Independence Day is him trying to recreate lightning in a bottle. He takes, he's thinking, let's see if we maybe get back that old magic. Doesn't work. Midway was like, well, I did good with the Patriot. Maybe I can make another Patriot. So he goes for Midway. Midway doesn't work.
$100 million budget, $127 million box office.
So this is his last. So Moonfall, which we reviewed on here, is his last attempt to recreate that old magic. It will also fail. It will nearly bankrupt Lionsgate. It is a giant money pit.
$150 million budget minimum. That's probably underreported. Only does $67 million at the box office. It is the crater of all craters.
Yeah, the premise is like the planet, the moon rather, is a spaceship. It's dumb. I remember talking to you about it. Like, I remember the trailers for it having really some fun rock and roll music, and that this was going to be a bouncy kind of, like, again, the thing that makes 2012 watchable, as Ronnie pointed out, is John Cusack trying to outrun an earthquake. It's
with his family in a limo.
yeah, it's giant, raucous, destructive action. That's the ticket. That's what people want. And so with Moonfall, the way it was. So I was just listening to some of our old Damn You Hollywoods, like old, like within like the last 2 months, and we were talking about, I think, Roofman and The Rip, about how these were bait and switches, and how there's been a lot of bait and switches over the last 2-3 years. Moonfall, right in there, because you are sold a bouncy, fun, good time at the movies as the moon is about to crash into the earth. And what you get is this 12-year-old boy science fiction story. Period.
With Josh Gad.
And it's not bound. Yeah, it's got a bad cast. It's got. It doesn't have enough action to support it.
And once again, we have a, stepfather dying horribly for no good reason.
Yeah. Moonfall can best be described as every single thing that used to make Roland Emmerich great now makes him terrible.
Yep. That's kind of the long and the short of it.
Roland Emmerich is kind of a relic of a time that is gone. I said before, spectacle is now either Barbie or Avengers Doomsday, not a whole lot in between. And if you're like, but,
Doomsday's not even really a spectacle.
Well, again,
they're going to try, but it's going to fail.
In the spectacle, in the sense of, like, look at all these actors and characters that we have all in one place.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle in the way the Royal Rumble is a spectacle, or WrestleMania or some shit. So my point is, I think Roland Emmerich is a great director to study as a film student. However, I don't think he can make a movie that's successful in 2026. I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll move on.
I think it's harder for him in the current landscape because, again, spectacle is kind of going the way of the dodo. We're just so look, Marvel has kind of done spectacle to death, and good Marvel movies marry spectacle with a good story. Those became failingly few down the stretch for the MCU, but we watched a robot lift a giant chunk of the Earth into low orbit to try and drop it back onto it to create a meteor impact.
What you got, Roland? I got these.
Bear in mind, all of this done with characters we know and sort of care about.
Well, if you're referring to Age of Ultron, and we very much cared about those characters back then, we don't anymore.
Well, we didn't. You don't care about every character in Age of Ultron, but most, yes. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the point. Like, there's a lot of these characters that we know and we care about, and Age of Ultron has problems as a movie, but is functionally well written. And we get the big spectacle. So if all you have is the spectacle minus the other parts of it, you don't have a whole lot these days. And I mean, again, like, he's at this point, he's also just not got a whole lot of cachet anymore.
Well, he hasn't made a movie since Moonfall, and Moonfall was a spectacular failure. Studios are merging.
Yep.
And because they've sunk billions and billions of dollars into these mergers, there's not a whole lot of money left over for gambling. There isn't. Like, we talked about this when we did The Wrecking Crew, where it's only safe bets now.
Here's the closest thing you've got. The last thing that we heard from Roland Emmerich was he's got a spiritual sequel to The Day After Tomorrow that's being worked on. And it'll probably get greenlit by somebody. But
yeah, it'll end up either being on Amazon or it'll be on Netflix because they have money to burn.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, this guy, his career trajectory to me is fascinating because the highs are so high.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is a guy who in short order did, Stargate, which is beloved, Independence Day, which is beloved, the Godzilla movie, which is iffy, the Patriot, which is respected. And then things start going sideways. And then, again, the day after tomorrow is, again, iffy, but I think a lot of people kind of landed where you and I did, which is, if it's on, I don't hate watching it. Like, there's still craft there and care there. And then 2012 is everyone kind of throwing up their hands going, okay, we're done with this.
Yeah.
And after that, it's immediately off the cliff.
Here's the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to start doing plugs. There's only so many times you can watch the Earth blow up and not have anything else to support it. Because you can watch the Earth blow up a bunch if you've got a really good story attached to it. That kind of became the problem with Roland Emmerich, is there was a little too much focus on blowing up the Earth and not a lot of focus on the story. And when there was no blowing up the Earth to be had and he only had story, he was found to be lacking in the story department. I think Roland Emmerich, frankly, I think if you gave like Doomsday or Secret Wars to Roland Emmerich, I actually think he would do a good job with it.
He probably would do okay with a big comic book IP at this point.
He can obviously let's live in a world where we're running Marvel 7 years ago, and they're developing the Eternals, and we're looking at Chloe Zhao, who's going to win an Oscar for Nomadland. And we're looking at other directors, and like the pitch is, it's a large ensemble piece that takes place over thousands of years, and there's this director who just won an Oscar that we want to give it to, but she's never done anything of this scope and size. And sober-minded people running a company say, then don't give her that one. Let's find something else for her to do. I hear there's a Black Widow movie that needs to get made. Maybe she'll do better with that one. It's a little bit more, a little bit more manageable for her. The lady who did Nomadland. So let's give the Eternals to Roland Emmerich. Could you imagine what that would have looked like?
I absolutely can. I think it would have been better than what we got.
Oh, sure. But that's my point. Roland...
Yeah,
the Eternals was like the perfect Marvel movie for Roland Emmerich.
Yeah, like the pitch to that is the Earth is an incubation chamber for a giant celestial being that's going to burst out of it. Like, yeah, Roland Emmerich is right up his alley.
When the celestial fucking pops out of the crust and everything, could you imagine what he would have done with that? Because Chloe Zhao was like, a few waves. No, lady. When Galactus fucking stands up out of the Earth, you're gonna have a little bit more than a few waves. You're gonna have like
he would have shown Avengers Tower getting wiped out. Like he would have done something with it.
Like fucking Black Panther and Wakanda. Oh no!
Yeah,
rhinos are going everywhere.
Look, he would have risen like Namor, and Atlantis would have come out. Would have been like destroyed. We'd have seen him underwater. No other connection to anything. Just like, hey, here's Atlantis. Here's Namor, the Submariner. Boom.
Yeah. Now I want to live in that timeline.
It would have been better.
Fucking Asgard gets a bit wet.
Well, Asgard's not there anymore by that point, but yeah.
Yeah. Listen. Yeah, I think in the hands of somebody who can handle large ensembles, big set pieces, and you want to show wholesale fucking destruction, or here's another one. My last pitch for Roland Emmerich does a Marvel movie. What if you gave him Brave New World? And you treat the Hulk as a natural disaster, the Red Hulk.
You would have had to have had if this is going to be a Roland Emmerich joint, the Red Hulk has to be the primary problem, not the geopolitics of it.
We have to lose him in the first. Harrison Ford has to become Red Hulk in the first act, and then it's the rest of the movie is trying to stop him from destroying the Earth.
Again, at that point, we're just completely reworking everything about the movie, which I don't think would be a bad idea.
I'm okay with that.
I just said not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think the Eternals was really kind of the one that should have gone to him in that respect.
Yep.
Because he also handles ensemble casts fairly well.
Right. But who knows if he would have wanted to do it? Number one, and by that point, he had shit all over himself.
Well, and I think what we mentioned this after both Moonfall and Independence Day Resurgence. Roland Emmerich desperately wanted to make a Star Wars movie. Like those movies are both designed to set up big space battles. And that's clearly what he wanted to do. And he just, at this point, give him a Star Wars movie. It can't be worse than what we've got.
I don't think the timing works out because he's shit all over himself by the time Lucasfilm is a part of Disney. And
again, like I'm not saying give him, The Force Awakens necessarily, but
I was thinking of was instead of giving it to Rian Johnson, who doesn't want to cooperate, give it to Roland Emmerich.
If he does the middle portion of that.
Yeah, if he does, dude, give The Last Jedi to Roland Emmerich. Ooh, doggy. And then let him finish. Instead of dividing it with 3 different visions of what Star Wars could be, start it with J.J. Abrams and say, here, I've done the first part of this for you. Make the next 2 movies. Could you imagine the amount of people walking behind us all the time? Could you imagine Can you imagine The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker as done by Roland Emmerich as like a part 1 and part 2? That'd be great.
There's 2 people who I really do genuinely wish had gotten a Star Wars movie. Emmerich's one of them. The other, Zack Snyder, because I think with the right oversight, he could have done something cool. Again, I don't want Zack Snyder to
control his wheat fetish.
Hang on, that's the point. Like, I don't want Zack Snyder unfiltered. I want Zack Snyder operating under a competent producer who can keep him reined in. Because under those circumstances, a lot of what he does well fit in the Well, there's a third guy I really want to see do Star Wars, but I don't think they're going to let Guillermo del Toro do it at this point. But del Toro, I think, would work because del Toro understands myth, and Star Wars is just a myth.
Do you remember when we used to pitch ourselves as willing to work for Hollywood studios as consultants?
I do. It's still out, open offer.
Yeah, I would like to renew that offer to Hollywood. That Mark and Robert look cheap. We will come and fix your movie. We will come and consult. We will do no production. We will do no craft. But we will absolutely tell the people in charge what they're doing wrong. We spend 2 hours a week doing it. And that, folks, is our review of The Day After Tomorrow, The Patriot, 2012, and Family Members Walk Behind You Constantly. All great Roland Emmerich films.
I would love to make fun of you for that, but you've seen what goes on behind me.
I'm doing it for both of us. It's been,
it's what we got.
Your house, my house, all night.
It's okay. It's part of the charm.
Yes.
So to anyone listening to this live or after the fact, please leave your feedback, because it's the first time we've done a director focus that kind of flowed this way instead of the normal triple feature. And if you want to see more of this, of us like tackling a guy's or girl's filmography with this methodology, please let us know, because if this was a failed experiment, we're happy to fail for science and never do it again. If you like it, we're happy to do more of it. So
I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about some other triple features we'll be doing. We are, in fact, doing Volcano, Dante's Peak, and The Core on April 30th. I believe you and I are also doing Bad Lieutenant, Copland, and The Duelist. That's at the end of May. You and I are doing, and I think Jason, because I'm making him, because some sort of better, whatever it was, stupid thing. Deliverance, The Deer Hunter, and Dog Day Afternoon. Celebrate the 70s, baby.
I think it was that, or the other through line from that. This is the second time I'm going to make this reference on this podcast, which makes me question myself. But the through line there might also be sodomy.
And I think that's it. So yes, those are the next couple of times Robert and I specifically, not counting pickups, not counting catch-ups rather, such as The Bluff, War Machine, and Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. I'm just going to talk about that for 1 second, and then we really get out of here.
I've seen War Machine, the Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid's in it briefly.
Okay.
That's the best thing. Alan Richardson is still a believable action lead, but other than that, it is.
You get to talk about it in a few weeks, along with The Bluff on Amazon. And so I have been wanting to. I wanted to do Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. We ended up doing something else instead. I don't remember what anymore.
A bigger release that we also both wanted to review.
Maybe. I think it was that either that week was Crime 101 or that week was.
Yeah, it was Crime 101.
Yeah, so that's why we did that.
The problem was, like, I think the original loose idea was we could do Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die the next week, but then something else bigger moved to that week, and it kind of just fell through the cracks.
Yeah, I think maybe Psycho Killer. Anyway, the point is...
We should have done that instead of Psycho Killer.
Yes, we should have. Part of it was
Alas.
I didn't know if it was going to be anywhere near where you live. So I said, well, wait for it to come on PVOD, and I'll do it as part of a streaming catch-up. And then there was news out there that because it had done so well in theaters, they were giving it an extended release, and I'm ready to flip my whole desk over. Now I'm back to having fucking schedule problems again. And then just as quickly, I noticed it's already on PVOD now. And I asked Google Gemini, I'm like, I thought this was getting an extended release. What happened here? And Gemini goes, you have a keen eye for the movie industry. But don't you?
That doesn't answer my question.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the funniest thing I saw on Twitter the last couple of days?
What?
Hal opened the pod bay doors. Hal, pod bay doors are open, Dave. Come on in. Hal, the pod bay doors are not open. You're exactly right, Dave. Give me a second and I will rectify that. There you go. Hal, the pod bay doors are still not open. You have a keen eye for your surroundings, Dave. Give me a second. I will work on rectifying the pod bay doors. There you go. They're still not open, Hal. Yes, clearly. I'm sorry about that. An error was made on my part. Like, they just recapitulated that whole thing with ChatGPT's current level of acknowledging its own mistakes.
Yeah, the end of that conversation with Gemini was, you're absolutely right. Despite the fact that it did well, then they realized it didn't do as well as they think it did, or it didn't have legs is what it was. They were like, it had done well opening weekend. Yeah. They thought, well, let's leave it in theaters longer. More people will go see it. Nobody saw it after the opening weekend, and they rethunked their whole thing, and now it's available on PVOD. So one of the triple features, not a director focus or a theme focus, as a movie catch-up, streaming movie catch-up. So it'll be The Bluff, War Machine, and Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. So I'm looking forward to. Next week, Robert...
One of those will be good.
Next week, I will not be on Damn You Hollywood. I will be driving home from New Orleans. So I have left Robert in charge of Two Women. See what hilarity comes of that.
We're reviewing Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
You are going to try to.
Look, I am going to be a professional. And if that means at a certain point I run screaming out of the room to avoid making things worse, I will do so.
What was the book where you refused to participate in the review? So you just read a giant book. It was the size of a phone book.
Okay, that was Superman. Mm-hmm. James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn.
Yep. And what was the book?
That was Wind and Truth. That was Wind and Truth. It's by Brandon Sanderson. It's a very thick book. But it's very easy reading. I got done with it in like 2 days. Okay. That's not my favorite non-participatory role in a review we've done, but it's up there.
Is your favorite the one where you said, I'm going to make me a sandwich and proceeded to walk off the Batman?
That was only the first part of the review for the Batman because you and Andrew just wanted to gush. And I would have nothing to contribute, so I went up and made a sandwich. No, my favorite is Detective Pikachu because I spent months pretending that movie wasn't coming out. Anytime you referenced it, I pretended that the connection went dead. There was gobbledygook because clearly that couldn't actually ever be a thing that anyone would ever do. And then we got to the review and you said, Robert, do the plot synopsis. And I went, I can't. I didn't see it. I didn't know it was coming out. And you went, how dare you turn into Andy Kaufman for this one bit?
Sounds about right. My kids used to listen to that one nonstop to go to bed too. Anyway, this past Monday, we reviewed Hoppers. This Monday is The Bride. And then I will be back a week from tonight. I will be back in the studio with Jesse. We're going to take our source material review of Planet Hulk and turn it into a Duran Duran song called Planet Hulk, of which the But before that, go on Spotify in another week or so, and you will see. Occasionally I take something else that we've done that I have not decided to plan. Like the whole thing with I was like I said, I was not doing well on Sunday, and I needed something to cheer me up. But also, I didn't want to do an entire episode of Sessions about our Wrinkle in Time thing when really that just boiled down to the one joke about Reese Witherspoon. So I was like, okay,
But Jesse was Jesse on that review? I want to
no,
say,
it's
or
just me and you.
okay, he was in the chat room, is what it was, because that bit about Reese Witherspoon turning into romaine lettuce cracked him up so much.
Yeah,
I mean, you and I were dying laughing anyway, but Jesse was he brought that back up to us as a gag repeatedly over the years.
So I was like, I'm trying to think of like stuff that I haven't turned into Sessions episodes of the next year, because I planned out an entire year of Sessions based on podcast reviews that we've done. And I didn't think to do A Wrinkle in Time because it's just the one gag, and I want to do more the entirety of the podcast. I want to turn into a song, not just one gag. One gags are I can do on my own. So that one gag turned into Turning into Romaine Lettuce, a Pink Floyd inspired mashup with Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, psychedelic 8-minute song about blonde-haired women turning into into romaine lettuce.
It is genuinely better than late stage Jim Morrison.
Other than the New
By
Orleans,
which I mean Rush Limbaugh.
Other than the New Orleans jazz song that I made yesterday in preparation for my trip, it's the best thing I've done yet. I amaze myself continually.
I'm not sure it's the best thing you've done yet, but it's one of the most clearly realized bits of your vision. Like, you told me the basic prompts, and I went, okay, I'll listen. Like, yes, that you got exactly what you intended to get out of it.
Yeah, as opposed to when I start one way and I end another. All right, so that's what's going on here. What's going on there?
Well, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. Watch me self-immolate in protest of the bride next week.
Here's the thing. You're going to set yourself on fire, and neither one of those women's going to sell it. They'll just be like, well, this is an opportunity for me to talk about trivia, or this is for me in order for me to talk about feminism, and they will not acknowledge that you are on fire.
I am aware of this. That's why it's a protest, self-immolation. Yes. Again, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, WWE SmackDown on Fridays, UFC events on Saturdays. We had UFC 326 last Saturday and the grumbling that came out of that. This week, we're back in the warehouse. Good main event, though, of Josh Emmett and Kevin Vachejos. If you want more detail on any of that, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which goes live on the 411 Wrestling and Entertainment YouTube channel sometime around 2 a.m. Eastern these days, because it's the most convenient time for me to not disrupt my family or have them interrupt me while I'm doing it. So it's about midnight my time, and I go live for the New Zealanders and the Australians at this point is kind of how that works out. But give it a listen. Again, there's a review and a preview and talk of news. Tom Aspinall signing a deal with Eddie Hearn to be his agent. Francis Ngannou leaving the PFL. The UFC White House card got announced, and I had words about that. So listen to any and all of that if that appeals to you. If you're curious about the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts, because I talk about that a fair amount. And yeah, the bride next week, and then some more triple features with yours truly coming in the near future, because Mark occasionally feels bad about what he does to me. And it's like, okay, I'll give you a triple feature. What do you want to do? And I went, well, I this came out of I have a soft spot for disaster
12-year-old.
movies.
I like volcanoes. Like, yeah.
Look, that came out of when I talked about Emmerich. So you have to understand how long ago some of these were originally scheduled. I had said that, I find Roland Emmerich's career trajectory fascinating. That was a little bit before Moonfall was when I actually kind of said that. And Mark said, okay, well, threw together a triple feature. It'll be a good time. And then for reasons, it got pushed back. But also out of that was, so you like disaster movies, huh? I'm like, yeah, I got a soft spot for them. There's a number of reasons for that. And he went, okay, pick 3 that we haven't done like big, damn you Hollywood numbers for. So I said, well, there's a fascinating duology between Dante's Peak and Volcano. He said, I still need a third, buddy. And I went, well, We could talk Armageddon, but I kind of want to do like that with Deep Impact because they again form an interesting dyad. But there's, The Core, which is a terrible movie, but he said, great, something blows up in it, it'll fit with the other two. We're golden here. And then that, like the others, got pushed back years.
We're doing them, aren't we? I'm not pushing them back any further.
Hey, Mark, have I ever, anytime you have said to me, I have to push this back, have I ever said, how dare you? Have I ever guilted you about it?
No, you're one of the few. That's why you're still here.
I understand scheduling, and as much as I can accommodate you, I do, and I understand that it hurts you to change your schedule. So nothing I can say is going to make you feel worse than you having to go to your calendar and move things.
That's why you're here, Judy Greer. That's why you're here. So
I'm supportive.
You're the only one. So for supportive Robert Winfrey, I'm passive aggressive Mark. Be well, be safe, and behave.